There it is. Oh my goodness. Hi, Libby. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm really good. So welcome, people who are joining us. We just started live. We had a little couple of technology difficulties, and so here we are. Happy to be here with you, and looking forward to share this information. This is so important and really dear to both our hearts. So we're going to dive in just a minute about the connection between autoimmune conditions and stored emotions and things from our past. But before we do that, I just want to introduce myself if you're new in my world, and I'll let Libby introduce herself. But my name is Linda Downey, and if you're following this on pages where you follow me, you've maybe seen me before. But if not, my background is I'm a functional health practitioner, a transformational health and spiritual coach, and I'm someone who has been on my own journey personally with struggling with health issues. That's actually how I came to be doing the work that I'm doing. So, for most of my adulthood, had some significant health issues to struggle with, and so that led me down a path with the information that we are really, really excited actually to share with you, because I have had four autoimmune diagnoses in my lifetime. The first one was when I was 21 years old. And I can even go back further than that when I start to see where health issues showed up. And Libby, I'm going to let her jump in and introduce herself, but she also has her own personal connection to this topic. So we're really excited to be here this evening. This is streaming in multiple places. Please leave your comments. Please say hello, but we may not see it in the moment because we can't see all the different places this is streaming. But we will make sure that we get back to you. Either Libby or I will get back to you and make sure we answer any questions. If you have it for Libby, put Libby. If you have it for Linda, put Linda, and we'll make sure we get back to you. Okay, so Libby, why don't you tell folks a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I basically had chronic health issues my entire life. I was trying to count how many I have. I think I have 8 different autoimmune conditions I've been diagnosed with at one time or another: fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, Graves' disease, Lyme disease, all the co-infections that go with Lyme disease, and a few other things too. I'm fortunately in remission with all of those, but it took a long time to get there. My husband was an OBGYN. When I really started getting sick, I couldn't stand well. I couldn't walk across the room. I couldn't absorb nutrition. I had to use an IV for that. And I've been told by multiple specialists at multiple times to get my affairs in order because I probably wasn't going to survive. But I'm still here and I'm in remission and I'm feeling better than I ever have. And so I work not only with clients in this vein of things to try to help them. And I love the work Linda does. The one thing that I wish everyone understood from the moment there is a diagnosis or even a consideration of a diagnosis of anything autoimmune is there is an emotional connection, 100% guaranteed. And if I had known that on the front end, my journey would have been a lot different and a lot easier, I think. And so now when I do work with people, that's really the first thing I like to talk about, is that connection. I also work with physicians who want to transition from traditional medicine to functional medicine from a business aspect. My husband was the first one that I helped do that way back in the day. And now I've helped lots of other docs and practitioners who really love the functional medicine side of things, but don't understand how they could move that into their business or into a new business model. So the cool thing is I get to help some patients like we're talking right now, some people on the journey right now. And then I also get to help practitioners who want to do that. So that gets to, help even more people.
Yeah, it really does, because when people are first not well, however that shows up, they go to doctors. And if doctors are not putting this piece together, it's a much longer journey. And you really have to do a lot of that work yourself. So the more doctors start to embrace this conversation and start to really understand this and have it be part of where they look and how they help people recover, I think that's just going to be huge. And that brings me to, I see more and more people are joining. So hello and welcome. Um, and as we're talking about the connection between autoimmune and emotions and past experiences, So I wanted to bring up, if you've ever heard of it, maybe some people have, some people haven't, but it's called the ACEs score, right? ACEs, ACE, and that stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And that is a score. I think there's 10 or 11 pieces of information. And a lot of doctors now are including this when you go into a doctor's appointment. They'll give that as part of looking at your background and your history. So adverse childhood experiences, and there's a list of them, but it's, were your parents divorced? Was there any kind of substance abuse in your household? What else is on there?
Isn't there serious illness within the family?
Yeah, actually, I have it pulled up here. Let me just pull it up on my my other screen. I can actually talk about it. But why I want to bring it up is because if you have even two or more, here we go. Let me read my other screen. So here's what it includes. Was there, in your childhood, was there any physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical neglect, emotional neglect? And when I say emotional neglect, for a lot of people, regular households that people are used to does have a level of that, because people are stressed out. People are working multiple jobs. People have, you know, their kids with babysitters. And this is not to make anybody feel badly, but sometimes the situation out of our control is still part of why the child feels emotionally neglected. Parental mental illness, parental substance abuse, incarceration of a parent, divorce, or domestic violence. Those are the main topics. And if for every, if you have any one of those, you get a point. Once you have more than 2 points, your incidence of autoimmune conditions goes up, and it goes exponentially higher for each person. So I just want to read you some other facts. 67% of adults have at least one. 67% have at least one. 1 in 8 adults has 4 or more. So if you look at, was there alcoholism or was there whatever, you know, that people feel like, oh, that's in the past. It's a huge predictor of your health, and specifically autoimmune conditions.
And just to stack on that, if I can for a minute, Linda, you touched on it a little bit, but you know, very often our parents did the best they could with what they had. This is not to sit and blame our parents. I mean, I am now the parent of 4 adult children. My youngest just became an adult last week. And I know there were things that were not optimal in our life because of circumstances that were completely beyond my control. Did it mean I didn't love them? No, but I know that there were things that were not optimal, were not perfect for sure. And so this isn't about blaming our parents or kicking the can down the road or, crying victim. It's about just acknowledging the truth. And I think, maybe you'll get into this a little bit further, Linda, but, one of the things, I'm also a RRT certified practitioner. And one of the things we often talk about is maybe we didn't see that particular thing happening in our family. Like maybe there was no alcoholism in our family, but maybe in our immediate family, but maybe it was a generational cycle. Maybe it was a generational behavior pattern. And so it's not always maybe what you just saw in your immediate family. Maybe no one was a raging alcoholic. Maybe your parents weren't, but maybe a grandparent was or a great grandparent was. And there's also this generational thing that trickles into that I don't think we even fully understand what that looks like or how big of a role that plays. But I think there's definitely a piece of that we need to consider too, as well. Maybe there was just some unusual behavior that would link to that.
Absolutely. No, in fact, it's funny you should say that, because I don't think I even told you this, but my next level healing program, which is for people who have done a lot of the core work on healing themselves from their past, what we're diving into, and it actually starts this month. It's a 6-month program, and we go into generational healing. That's one of the main threads, because once you've really worked on yourself and worked on, addressing what there is in you and how to release things and how to change how you think and see yourself, to me, the next logical place, if you want next level healing, which is why I call it that, is the generational patterns that have been passed down. And they get passed down not only in behaviors, but also actually in the DNA. So if there
Yeah.
has been stress, I'll use the word trauma, because trauma, the definition just means anything that happens to us that is bigger than we can handle at the time, that causes us to have a response where we see ourselves or the world around us or other people differently. And it can shift us neurologically and how we think and see things. So
Yeah.
even if a great grandfather had that, that gets passed down. It gets passed down up to 14 generations in our
Yeah.
physical body, in our DNA. So, a lot of times it has nothing to do with you and your immediate life, but there's still going to be a link to health issues. So,
Absolutely. And I
Libby,
mean,
would you?
I had a unique situation in that I knew my great grandmother. And I
You
heard
did?
so many, yes, I did. And I heard so many stories. My dad was a genealogist, and I heard so many stories. His grandmother was the genealogist of our family. So I would sit at her feet basically and listen. She didn't pass away till I was in my 20s. So I've heard the good, the bad, and the ugly of both sides of my family. And, I had kind of a unique ringside to go, oh, well, that's probably where that's from. A lot of people don't have that, length of time to be able to understand, but you look at grandparents and great grandparents who've been through wars, who've been through starvation, who've been through abuse of some kind, and when you know the stories, it's not that hard to think, oh, I bet that would be involved. But if you don't know the story, it might be a little bit of a harder sell to believe that could somehow be tied to your to your Hashimoto's or your chronic fatigue. But I assure you it is.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. So there's the generational, which we were just talking about, and then there's what has happened in our own lives. And it's not coincidental that women are on the rise for autoimmune. More than 70%, I think it's closer to 80% of all people with autoimmune conditions are women. And more than 70% or it's at least double the amount of women who have childhood sexual assault is double that of men who have experienced that as boys. So that's just one category on the ACEs. But also women in how we are taught to manage our emotions and how we show up and, making sure other people are taken care of first. All of that is very, very much related to then your nervous system and how your body handles things. And here's something: if you've been on a health journey, probably you've seen in your blood work cross reactive protein. Have you ever seen that, CRP? For
Mm-hmm.
folks listening, check on that, because that is a marker for inflammation in your body. Cross reactive proteins, if your inflammation is high, that number is high. There's a direct link for people who had difficult childhood, who had several things on the ACEs that we talked about earlier. Their cross-reactive protein is quite elevated, and that means inflammation is up in their body, and that is going to directly affect the immune system, and it's going to really turn on autoimmune responses.
Yes. Absolutely.
So
So, what do
I
you
was
recommend for people? Let's talk for a second, if we can, about okay. So, let's say someone believes that there is some correlation between the way, like that maybe we have some emotional baggage, some trauma, some difficult circumstances we've been through as a child, and now we've got this autoimmune condition. What do we do about it? Like, how do we I mean, it's one thing to just be aware and know that's good. That's step one, right? But like how practically, like what do you do with that? There's not a pill to take. There's not a shot. There's not a vitamin that helps us with dealing with the emotional side of dealing with autoimmune.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, and as you said, pill or a shot or a vitamin and supplement. I'm sure I know I did all of those things. I was
Yes.
very much on the hunt for the physical like answer, right?
Yes.
And there will be physical things you need to try to unravel what's been done physically, like in your gut, and you have to get the inflammation down and all of that. But in order to address, and this was the last piece, that's what I was going to ask you before. For me, this was the last piece of my puzzle. It was the last place I was like, there's still a hole in my puzzle. Like there's still something. Where else do I look? And it was actually a practitioner who sent something to me and said, have you ever heard of this and check this out? And then I went, you know, gangbusters after that because I knew it resonated. It felt right as soon as I heard it, and it was the missing link. So it's really being willing to do the inner work around how do you think and feel about yourself? How do you manage your emotions? So people create patterns of where they feel comfortable and safe around emotional expression. And if that pattern has not served you and has not allowed you to express your emotions, they're in there and they're causing that inflammation and they're causing that nervous system dysregulation and they're contributing to gut. There is no one with a gut issue who does not have an emotional connection as well. And autoimmunity always starts with a gut issue as also.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had been to, my husband actually became a functional medicine physician to try to get me well because I was just not given a lot of hope. He was an OBGYN and he said, I think I've figured out how we can fix you. Let's work on this. And we just started down the functional medicine journey together. I was his first patient and we were experimenting as we were going. And I mean, I was seeing specialists all over the country. I was a mess. I had advanced stage neurological Lyme disease. And I just, there was not a lot of hope I was going to survive. And I remember we were driving back from another doctor's appointment that was a big disappointment because he didn't really give me anything I didn't already know. And in fact said, I don't even know if I believe in Lyme disease, like even though he was a Lyme literate doctor, supposedly. And I was feeling very discouraged. And I remember my husband was driving me back home and he just turned and looked at me and he said, Libby, you're not going to like this answer, but we can't fix you anymore. You need to fix you. And at first I was really stunned and kind of angry that he would say there was nothing, because I felt like he was giving up on me. Like, what do you mean? Like, we've been down this journey together. We've tried all this crazy stuff. What do you mean? What do I have to do? I don't know what to do. Like, I'm not, what do you mean by that? That doesn't make any sense. And then I started getting into the work of just starting to, through a variety of other circumstances, starting to work through my emotions. And I have always, up until recently, been a stuffer. Anything negative goes shoved down. Anything positive, I can express. But anything negative about me, myself, anyone around me, anything I didn't like, I was not, if there wasn't something nice to say, you didn't say anything at all. And you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you do it. And you're the heart of the family. You're the emotional gatekeeper. As a mom, especially, I felt all these things very deeply. That was my role. And that it wasn't okay to have negative emotions in the family. We needed to all just be, to quote, lack of a better way to say it, quote a song, we need to be shiny, happy people holding hands. Like, that's what a good family is. And if we're not being that, then we're missing the mark. And so, setting yourself up for failure like that, first of all, is not a great thing. But then when you start shoving down the emotion because you're not meeting the expectations, you're not doing the things that you think you should be doing, and you have nowhere to put all that emotion, well, where do you think it goes? And when I really started thinking through that, I was like, well, it must go somewhere. And that was really the beginning of my journey. But it was the very last piece. I mean, there was not a vitamin, a pill, a shot, an IV, a treatment that I did not try. I mean, I've tried some wild stuff. And while a lot of that got me toward remission, it was really to be healthy, not just according to my lab work, I'm in remission. I mean, I remember the week after I was in remission, I couldn't walk and I just started crying. I was like, I'm in remission. Everything's okay now. And it wasn't. And it was because I had not dealt with that piece of the puzzle. The infection was gone, but the autoimmunity remained.
Right. That's a really great point too, because people's blood work can say a lot of different things, and it's not at all oftentimes a matter for how you're feeling, you know, the amount of energy you have to get through your day, how well you're sleeping, how well you can manage your relationships because you feel so exhausted or so frustrated or so spent or fearful that you can't even really be a great presence or on the opposite end of a partnership in your relationships. That's all still going on, but blood work seems okay, or, you know, oh, your thyroid's functioning now. Well, I can hardly move.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting. You had Graves' disease and Hashimoto's, so did I. Those are both thyroid autoimmune conditions. They're opposite ends. And you and I both had both of those. I think that was so interesting when you said that. Thyroid is a really common case. I'm sure there's a lot of people listening, a lot of women that you know your thyroid is not working the way it should be. Even if your doctor's telling you it looks fine, you know you don't feel well. And that's thyroid.
Yeah. And just a little tip there. If you're going to a regular doctor and they say your thyroid is fine, go see a functional practitioner, because they have a completely different scale of what is fine. And I think sometimes, I mean, we're talking a lot about the emotion, but I think one of the big emotions most autoimmune people face is that people don't believe me. People don't believe me. And maybe I'm crazy. I know how I feel, and it's not right, but like everyone's telling me I'm okay. I can't tell you the number of times people told me, well, you look fine. Well, that's because I put on lots of makeup and because I didn't, shuffle around in sweatpants. If I had looked the way I felt, people would have rushed me to the ER immediately, right? And so I think a big thing for people to hear from us today, Linda, is that we believe you. We believe that you have something going on, and we're willing to go there and explore with you. Don't settle for someone who doesn't believe you and who isn't willing to explore and help you find those answers.
Yeah, there are absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, you also might look fine for an hour out of the day, and then you go home and you have to lay down, right? So maybe you looked fine out at, the school pickup line or whatever, but the rest of the day is shot and what you've got to give to your family, or you stop going to things because you don't have the energy to manage through. So we have both lived it. We absolutely believe you. The work that I've done as a functional health practitioner was all of the physical work. I was working with clients, gut cleanses, liver detoxes. I was doing stool samples and checking for parasites and food sensitivities, blood work, all of that. I was doing all of that with people. And now I really focus on this piece because I think it's the one piece that you can't get a lot of support on, or you just don't know where to go. There's a lot more people, and Libby's helping that happen by working with doctors to help them, shift their practice if that's what they want to do, to be able to be doing that kind of work. But this kind of work, what I do with my clients, and my foundational program is called Return to You, because it's about returning to you, the health, the vibrancy, the balance, the calm and peace that you were meant to have, and not be living in this, whether it's constant stress and anxiety or major health issues. So, that's really what we wanted to share with you today, is look at peace. Because if you're not getting better, if you're getting just one more prescription, if you're getting one more protocol, if your doctors are saying there's nothing else we can do, here's Libby. How many years ago was that, Libby, that was all going on? It's been a while, right?
It was 2015. I was declared in remission. So about almost 10 years now. Yeah. And I'll say too, yeah, basically 10 years. And, I want to reiterate what Linda's saying. It's so important that you get to someone who will believe you and who will walk through this with you. And I love the title of her program, Return to You, but I will say this, and maybe this is for someone who's in their autoimmune in the middle of it all right now. You may not even remember what you looks like or feels like. I remember a practitioner who asked me a question like that, and I was like, I honestly don't know. I've been so beaten down. I'm so exhausted. My veins are blown from IVs. I can't walk. I crawl to my kid's bedroom every night so I can kiss them goodnight because I may not be there in the morning. Like, how could I return to me? Like, what does that even mean? I don't know. Like, I just want to take a nap and wake up and feel okay. But the point is, even if you don't know who you are, if you don't think you know who you are, you're in there and you're worthy of being found and you're worthy of being returned to, because when you restore that balance, and when you get back to to living that life, and maybe you've never lived that life before, maybe you've been sick your whole life, you don't remember a time where you were healthy or felt good or had energy. I mean, I was a little kid in elementary school that still wanted to come home and take naps. That's weird. That's not normal. I had things going on even back then. And, maybe you're one of those people. So maybe it's going to be about discovering who you are and living that, and that I can live, I've been working on that for about 3 years now, and I have more energy. I know who I am. I know what I'm about. I love my life, and I won't settle for those things that I used to, because there was a lot going on in there. And so maybe you don't even know who you ever were or are. That's okay to discover that too.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a great point. That's really great, because you're right. Just discovering, and actually by releasing anything that's been shoved down and stuffed in there, it is a process of discovery. It's a wonderful, beautiful, worthwhile process. So please, if this is you, if this speaks to you, if this resonates, if you want to have a conversation about this journey and how it could add to whatever you've already done about your health, and if health and autoimmune isn't your main thing, but it's maybe more around just stress, constantly being stressed and anxious and not sleeping, or having a lot of clash in your relationships because of the stress that's there, please drop in a comment. We will make sure one of us gets back to you, and we will make sure to put some time available for you for a one-on-one conversation, so that you can really look to see, is this my missing puzzle piece as well?
Yes. Do it sooner.
So anything
rather than later.
Go ahead.
And I was just going to say, do it sooner rather than later. Don't wait till everything else aligns, or you just feel better. You try one more pill or potion. Get working on this now. It can feel scary. It can feel overwhelming, but I promise you, that's why you have Linda. Like, I tried doing it all on my own. That was scary and overwhelming. Having someone who can walk you through this and really cares about you and is not, I was just bumping around in the dark trying to figure out what to do. You've got someone right here who's willing to walk with you step by step in a proven method. That I would have given my right arm for that. So don't wait on that. You are worthy of this. You are worthy of this level of care and commitment. Commit to yourself, and we'll commit to you too.
Yeah, that was beautifully said. And it's not only is it scary and is it, overwhelming to do by yourself, but it takes a heck of a lot longer. I literally spent a couple of decades going back to school again, becoming able to do all the functional health testing, going back to school again, getting certified in a whole other realm that I never even used to think about. I never even used to dwell in the things that I do now with my clients. It was brand new to me, but it took So so you don't necessarily want to give up decades of your life, I don't think. So we're available. We're here. Definitely leave a comment and we will get back to you, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We look forward to hearing from you.
Awesome. And we're going to connect again next Monday. We want to keep talking about all of the ways that your nervous system and your health and other parts of your life are affected by what happened in your past. So we'll see you next Monday. And we will look forward to getting back to you. Anybody who leaves us any comments. So thank you so much for.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.